In a land far from the hills of Zion, beneath the towering columns of Persian palaces and the echo of foreign tongues, lived a man whose heart still beat for Jerusalem. His name was Ezra, a priest by blood, a scribe by discipline, and a servant of the Lord by choice. Born not in the holy city, but in the dust of exile, Ezra had never seen the splendor of Solomon's temple or the glory days of David's throne. But while others moved on, building homes and businesses in foreign lands, Ezra carried something that no one could see: a burden, a holy longing, a deep, unrelenting desire to see his people restored to the word of their God. While others chased position and possessions in the Persian Empire, Ezra pursued something greater. He gave himself to the study of the law, not just to know it, but to live it. He pored over ancient scrolls, he prayed in silence, and he fasted in solitude. The law was not a book to him, it was the voice of his Father, and over time, Ezra became more than a scholar. He became a vessel, prepared, quiet, and waiting for the Lord's moment to come. That moment came in an unexpected way. King Artaxerxes, ruler of Persia, took notice of Ezra's wisdom and integrity. Moved by the hand of God, the king granted Ezra something few exiles could even dream of: permission to return to Jerusalem. But not just permission. He gave Ezra wealth, silver and gold for the temple, and authority to lead those who were willing to return. And yet, Ezra did not rejoice in privilege. He did not boast in the king's favor. Instead, he wept in gratitude, knowing the weight of the task that lay ahead. For this was not a journey of comfort, but of conviction. Ezra gathered the exiles, men, women, and children who still remembered the songs of Zion. They stood beside a river called Ahava, preparing for the long and dangerous road ahead. Thieves and enemies lurked in the shadows, and they carried no soldiers with them. But Ezra did not call on Persia's army. He called on the Lord. There, at the riverbank, he proclaimed a fast. He humbled himself, and all the people seeking protection not from man, but from the God of heaven, and their prayers were heard. They set out across deserts and valleys, through lands unfamiliar and uncertain. Each step was a reminder that revival always comes at a cost. But Ezra walked not in fear, but in faith. And when they arrived at Jerusalem, the city of God, their joy quickly turned to sorrow. The temple had been rebuilt, its stones stood firm, but the people's hearts were crumbling. The covenant, once etched into their souls, had been forgotten. The people of Israel, now returned from exile, had married foreign wives, adopted pagan customs, and fallen into compromise. Ezra was undone. He tore his garments. He sat in silence with dust upon his head. He was not angry for reputation, nor ashamed for image. He was heartbroken for his people. He cried out not as a bystander, but as one who carried the weight of their sins on his shoulders. "Oh my God," he wept, "I'm ashamed and disgraced to lift up my face to you. Our sins are higher than our heads, and our guilt has reached the heavens." His lament became a holy fire. People began to gather. They saw his grief and were pierced in their hearts. No one had spoken, yet conviction fell like rain. One by one, voices joined his prayer. Men began confessing. Families wept. A quiet but powerful revival began to stir. Not from a king's decree, but from one man's brokenness before God. But Ezra knew that emotion alone could not sustain transformation. Something more was needed, a return to the word. He gathered the people, every man, woman, and child who was willing to listen. In the open square of Jerusalem, he stood before them with a scroll in hand. As he unrolled the sacred text, silence fell like a heavy cloud. And then he began to read, line by line, word by word. The law of the Lord. The people stood, not for a moment, not for a few verses, but for hours. As Ezra read, tears streamed down faces, shoulders trembled, knees buckled. These were not just words. They were wounds being healed, eyes being opened, hearts being revived. Ezra read with authority, but also with tenderness. He wasn't just reminding them of rules, he was reintroducing them to their God. The Levites moved through the crowd, explaining and teaching, ensuring that everyone understood. And for the first time in generations, the people heard, truly heard, the voice of the Lord. They began to weep. But Ezra, ever the shepherd, stopped them. "This day is holy," he said. "Do not mourn or weep. Do not grieve, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." And in that moment, sorrow turned to celebration. Conviction gave way to comfort, and what began with lament ended in rejoicing. The people of God were not just returned to their land. They were returned to their identity. Ezra did not stop there. He re-established order among the priests and Levites. He corrected injustice and restored the reading of the law as a regular practice. He led the people through difficult decisions, including the painful but necessary step of separating from unholy alliances. It was not easy, it was not popular, but it was right. And through it all, Ezra remained humble. He never sought glory for himself. He never used his position to boast. He walked in obedience, one step at a time, trusting that God was rebuilding something greater than what had been lost. He understood that true restoration does not begin with walls. It begins with hearts. That a temple is nothing if the people within it are far from God. That revival is not a wave of emotion, but a return to truth. And that even in the silence of exile, God is preparing scribes, shaping leaders, raising up those who will carry his word into the ruins and speak life once more. Ezra was not loud. He was not flashy, but he was faithful. He may not be remembered in songs of conquest, but heaven remembers him as one who stood in the gap, as one who wept for a nation, as one who set his heart to study the law of the Lord, to do it and to teach it. And that is the legacy that lives on. Because the story of Ezra is not just history, it is a mirror. It asks us hard questions. Are we people of the word or just people of tradition? Do we weep over sin, or have we grown comfortable with compromise? Are we preparing ourselves in the quiet, or waiting for someone else to fix what is broken? Revival does not begin in crowds. It begins in secret, in quiet rooms, in early mornings, in surrendered hearts. It begins when one person dares to pray, to fast, to study, to mourn, to believe that God is not finished yet. The world needs more Ezras, men and women who will not just read the word, but live it, who will not just point fingers, but fall on their knees, who will rebuild not just cities, but souls, who will lead not with pride, but with brokenness, who will say, "Lord, here I am, send me." So what about you? Will you set your heart like Ezra? Will you study the word, not for debate, but for devotion? Will you lead in the quiet when no one is watching? Will you weep for your city, your family, your generation, because the scroll is being unrolled once again, and the voice of the Lord still calls out through the pages? Set your heart, do his will, teach others. And when the story of your life is read in the halls of heaven, may it be said, here was one who rebuilt what others left broken. Here was one who brought the people back to the heart of God. If this message stirred your soul, don't keep it buried. Like, share, and subscribe. And let this truth spread like fire, because the world is waiting for the next Ezra.